Well, the Big Ten season has ended, and the Big Ten tournament is upon us, and obviously March Madness is upon us. So, a perfect time on the Keep It Orange and Blue podcast to have a good friend of the show known as JBR Bracketology. Hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Ryan. Thanks for the opportunity to hop on once again, talk a little Illinois basketball and talk Big Ten basketball now that we got a Big Ten tournament bracket out.
Yep, I know you're a Maryland Terrapin guy, so that could be in Illinois. Not too far ahead, but you look ahead a little bit in the Big Ten tournament. So Maryland is the 2 seed, Illinois is the 7 seed, and so Maryland gets the double bye. Illinois gets the weekly Wednesday, as it's called. Even though there's still a team in there who could make the NCAA tournament without winning the Big Ten tournament, which is Ohio State. So Illinois' first matchup there in the Big Ten tournament could be Ohio State or Iowa. So intriguing matchup there, JBR, because it's interesting. It seems and sounds like this is Fran McCaffrey's final year at Iowa. Is that kind of what you're hearing and seeing rumblings of?
I haven't heard much about it, but I will say it kind of feels like it's time, like it's run its course. He's gotten them as far as he could. They've had some really, really good teams, obviously with Garza at their peak, but at the same time, it does feel like Iowa's ready for some fresh blood.
Yeah, it could be Drake's head coach. You never know. I think people are saying stuff about that. But with 2 straight years of them missing the tournament, if they don't, have a miraculous Big Ten tournament and win 5 games in a row, looks like be back-to-back years of Iowa missing the tournament. And it's kind of interesting too, is that his kids came to play for him, and then now his youngest and probably best son's not coming to play for him. And you saw his.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And his son, Patrick, transferred
to Butler, right?
Yeah, so there's just a lot going on there. But anyway, so right now, Big Ten tournament bracket set. Obviously the bracketology and seeding is your thing. We're definitely going to talk, Big Ten teams, how many you think get in, what Ohio State would need to do. But now the focus obviously is Illinois. They look like they're a 6 or a 7 on most at the moment. Brackets across, and I hold you in high regard. I think, what are you, a top 5, top 10 ranking wise? You have been.
Yeah, I mean roughly, but I'm basically in the subsection of the newbies because I haven't been submitting to the bracket as long as some of the other guys.
But of your accuracy though, since you have. You're in the top 10 in there. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you have Illinois as of today, and what is your path for Illinois to feel, good about either a 6 and definitely staying off the 8? Because I don't know about you, but I'm not a bracketologist, but I like to look at numbers and crunch teams and they're comparing against. I feel like if Illinois happens to lose to Ohio State, who'd be a quad 1 game, in my opinion, I think they still would have a good shot at a 7, and stay off the 8. Just give me your take on where they're at and what they don't want to happen and what they need to happen to get to feel good about a 6.
Yeah, so I have Illinois right now as my last 6 seed, number 24 overall. I messaged you, I guess earlier today about, Illinois is first, or I think now tied for first in the Big Ten with 9 wins against the at-large field. Now that does include Ohio State, so some people don't have Ohio State in, so that would knock Illinois down a hair. But regardless, I mean, that's 9 wins over the tournament at-large field or within the first, team out. So that really stands out, right? That's a lot of wins against tournament competitions. And I also have Illinois down as 5 wins away from home against the tournament field. So again, that's really impressive. 5 is a lot. I'm not sure exactly where that ranks nationally, but I would surmise that ranks top 10 nationally. So when you have that many good wins against tournament competition away from home, that stands out, right? And then, the other thing that's going to help them, at least relative to their metrics, is that, they battled a lot of injuries and a lot of illnesses. So I definitely think that Illinois is going to get at least some benefit of the doubt relative to their kind of full body of work, including, some of those losses that they suffered in January and early February. Yeah, I mean, if they lose their first game, it's possible they could be an 8 because those 7 seeds, so the top of the 8 line right now are all really close. I mean, those teams are very, very closely bunched. I mean, right now I have Marquette and Missouri at that 7-8 line. So if they lose that first game, they definitely could fall to the 8. But I think as long as they win that first game, they're locked as a 6 or 7 seed. And I would probably lean to a 6, especially if the win is over Ohio State.
Yeah. And also all those things matter too, of like a Marquette and all that. It depends on who they play and their results as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, I mean, all of those teams, it's been like that for weeks. These 6 and 7 seeds are just so tightly bunched that any result, positive or negative, can move a team up 4 or 5 spots. Like it's kind of insane. I mean, including Missouri. I mean, they fell 6 spots for me just for losing at home to Kentucky because everyone else around them was winning. And it's like, it's just when you're so closely bunched, one loss can be all it takes. Now, Missouri's metrics also fell quite a bit. I mean, I think their resume metric average fell 5 or 6 spots. So
losing that game to Vanderbilt really hurt. They blew
ever since they blew that game, they've just kind of been falling apart, unfortunately. So I mean, you got to win one and avoid the 8-9 game, and then like we were saying pre-recording, if you're able to get that 6 seed spot, that's a really good spot to make a deep run, avoiding the 1 seeds and avoiding the 2 seeds for as long as possible. Now, the flip side is you're going to get, a tough 11 seed, right? I mean, odds are you're going to get one of the best mid-majors in the country, or you're going to get one of these bubble teams that has kind of moved to the top of that bubble order by playing well over the last few weeks.
So here's a question you can answer. So I've looked the committee, if Illinois, let's say Illinois has already played Arkansas this year, okay? And if Arkansas, let's say they're a last 4 in type of team, let's say they get put in the last 4 in, they would not match up Illinois with Arkansas / Oklahoma because Illinois has already played Arkansas this year.
Correct. So Illinois cannot rematch against anyone they've already played this season in the first round. The only exception is if there's literally no other choice, such that every potential matchup would be a rematch, then they'd have to, right?
Yeah, that's not good.
But correct. They would have to. I mean, if it's Ohio State, if it's if it's any Big Ten team, or if it's anyone Illinois played in the non-conference, they would not be able to rematch in the first round, but they could in the second round. But in the second round, they're also supposed to avoid, but sometimes they can't.
I remember the Michigan State Minnesota matchup about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes. Yep. It happens. It happens.
Yeah. Because if it's one team upsets the other, so I was wondering about that because I see on some bracket, I won't say the name, but I saw a couple brackets this year. And I don't know about you, but on your guys' brackets, JBR, the matchups don't really matter to you guys as much as your seeds of the teams, correct? Like your mocks, because you're just filling in teams, right?
Correct. But you will see, I mean, assuming people's brackets or seed lists are relatively similar, you will see a lot of repeat matchups in my bracket versus, say, Made for March's bracket versus, say, Lenardi's bracket versus, say, T3's bracket. Like, if our seed lists are similar, you're going to see some similar matchups in our brackets by default, because once you do the bracketing, it's supposed to be geographical, but there's so many exceptions that a lot of times it doesn't really end up being that geographical, like avoiding those rematches that we talked about earlier. But it's supposed to be geographical.
I saw a couple brackets had Illinois against the winner of Oklahoma and Arkansas, and I'm like, that can't happen.
It shouldn't, but sometimes you don't have a choice, is what I was saying. It shouldn't, but it's possible.
And so it looks like a UC San Diego or a Drake could be an 11 seed that Illinois would play.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you get one of the very best mid-majors in the country. Those are usually veteran teams. Those are usually fundamentally sound teams. They're usually very well coached teams. They may not have the athleticism. They may not have the 4-star and 5-star recruits, but those are scary teams to play. Those are scary teams to play.
I've tried to peek and watch UC San Diego last night. I know they've got a good kid from New Zealand or something. I haven't watched them that much, but I know they're like 28-4.
I watched them play UC Irvine, and they're not televised much, so it makes it challenging to say the least.
That's another thing. It's like, how's the committee really watch them?
They don't. They don't.
That's why I think they might get underseeded this year, because they may be an 11 seed, but you might see them as like a 12 or a 13. So but anyway, so Illinois, Illinois could get a 5. Would they have to win the Big Ten tournament?
If they win the Big Ten tournament, I think they'd have a pretty good shot at a 5. By and large, the Big Ten tournament, the reason that there's this sentiment of fans that the committee doesn't pay attention to conference tournaments is just because of how late these tournaments happen. The committee is going to start meeting, I believe, on Wednesday this coming week, and Illinois
games for the first few days until Friday.
Illinois doesn't even play until Thursday, right? I mean, anyone that has a double bye doesn't play till Friday, right? Like Maryland doesn't play till 6:30 Friday night. They will already have seeded the 3 and 4 and 5 seed lines by the time Maryland plays Friday night, guaranteed. Now they have the ability to go back and move teams up or down, but
a scrub,
it's scrub, right? But it doesn't really seem like that makes any difference. My buddy Graham Doran, who also does bracketology, he says, yeah, they'll talk about it, they'll consider it, but they're not going to change their votes. So they'll say, oh yeah, we considered all those results, but they didn't really consider those results because you had a quad 1 or like Maryland, Illinois, right? That's a quad 1A game for both teams. That moves the needle. It absolutely moves the needle. You're talking about teams that, for the most part, only have 3 or 4 quad 1A wins all season. You pick up another one, that absolutely moves the needle, and it should be fully counted, but it doesn't. It won't. So, yes. Could Illinois get to a 5?
If Illinois can get past Maryland, that's another quad 1A game. That'd be 2 quad 1 wins. That'd put them at 10. Like that feels like Saturday, and then they win that. It's 11.
Right. I could see a 5. I mean, a 5 seems very reasonable if Illinois gets hot and you're like, all right, this is clearly a team that's now healthy, playing their best basketball. But
especially with Marez, here's another one. Is Marez Johnson being back and shown he's healthy and like able to play? That matters to the committee as well, right?
I mean, yes. In a word, yes. I think they're just going to take kind of the injuries and illnesses as a whole and just say Illinois battled some tough injury, illness luck, and just kind of give them maybe a slight boost relative to their metrics and kind of call it a day from there. But it's important to show that Illinois is healthy and that they are playing well, right? I think Illinois is a team like that. Kentucky with their injury concerns as well. I said the same thing when I put out my seed list a week ago. I was like, I'm not bringing Kentucky down yet because one of their stars, Jackson Robinson, is out for the year. I'm like, I'm not going to adjust them yet. Let's see how they play. If they're clearly worse from this point forward, then I'm going to move them down. Well, they went out, they beat LSU by like 50, and then they just won on the road at Missouri. I'm like, well, I don't think that they're clearly worse. So I don't think that the committee is going to ding them for having an injury when they still look just as elite as they were before, right? So, no, it's important for Illinois to look the part of a team that's a top 20 team if you want committee members to vote them as a top 20 team. I think Illinois, obviously the Duke disaster was a disaster, but I think since that point, they have definitely recaptured how they were playing before.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. So it looks like Illinois could be anywhere between a 5 and an 8, depending on how good or bad. Like, I feel like if Illinois were to lose to an Iowa, that's another quad 2 loss. I feel like
you don't want that. You don't want that. That's where you might end up an 8.
Yes. So there's the variables. I was going the worst to the best. So if Illinois loses to Iowa, an 8, really possibly.
Possibly. I mean, it depends on what other teams do too, right?
Yeah. And then get to the Big Ten title game, 5 seed.
Could be a 5. Could be.
Yep. 5
or 6, right on that line.
Yep. So and that's Illinois is used to the They were a 3 last year, but most Illinois fans are in that 4 when they're a good team, not a great team. But Brad Underwood's had 1 seeds, 3 seeds, 4 seeds. He's been a 9 one year, and then whatever it is this year. And the year that COVID hit, I think Illinois was going to be a 7 seed that year, with Andres Feliz and all those guys, Kofi and Io. But Illinois fans in general over the years, we've been a 4 or 5 a lot, so we're used to that close, tough 4 or 5 matchup. But this year it'd be a little different, getting a good, tough mid-major, or the second round having to play like we talked, a really good 2 seed like Texas Tech, who you think is really scary and nobody would want to play them. Or
they're playing some good basketball right now. They're playing some good basketball.
And Texas A&M is a 3 seed possibly, or St. John's, something like that.
Yep.
What about this? Does the committee look at trying to avoid repeated matchups from last year in the early rounds if they can?
They do, like in the NCAA tournament, you mean?
Yeah, so like Illinois playing Iowa State in the second round this year. They played in the Sweet 16 last year.
They technically would try to avoid it. There's so many things that they have to try to avoid now with these super conferences. It's going to be tough, and that seems like the type of thing that they would be most willing to compromise on, right? I mean, an NCAA tournament matchup from a year ago, meeting this year in the second round.
Especially early, since it was late last year,
Yeah, I mean, yes, they are supposed to try to avoid it. I don't know that they necessarily will, but it depends on if there's other options or other places that Illinois could go, because obviously Iowa State's already going to be in the bracket by the time you get to seeding where Illinois is.
Yeah, and that was the last thing here before I let you go. Is that you say and you truly believe by Friday night, by the end of the Big Ten tournament's games Friday night before the CBS semifinals start Saturday, they're going to have the seed lines 1 through 5 pretty much done?
So yes, but the one seed line, they're going to wait. Like, they're not going to finalize that 1 seed line until probably through the SEC tournament, because I think that they're going to have to. The 1 seeds, they tend to wait to kind of see what happens. And then the bubble, it seems like the bubble is kind of the last teams that they vote on. And from what I can tell, just studying past years, is that they seem to vote on the bubble Saturday afternoon. So those are kind of the last teams in, and that's kind of what they do last. But yeah, between Thursday and Friday, I would say kind of the 3 to 9 seed lines. I mean, the bulk of the tournament, those seed lines are already voted on and largely scrubbed by the time you get to Friday evening. So that's why you just
playing Thursday night. They're already going to be working on that.
Oh yeah, yep,
so, okay,
definitely.
Now, do you believe the Big Ten gets 9 or 10 in? What does Ohio State need to do to feel confident?
I think at 17 and 14, I think Ohio State needs to win too. I mean, 18 and 15, finishing only 3 games above 500, I'm just not sure is enough. Excluding the COVID year of 2021, the last time a team went 17 and 14 in the regular season and then earned a bid was 2019.
Was that Vanderbilt?
2019 was Florida, I think.
I remember a Vanderbilt team that was 17.
Vanderbilt was 2017, I think.
Yeah, I think they played Northwestern or something.
I think it was Vanderbilt and then Alabama and Florida. For some reason, it was 3 SEC teams 3 years in a row. But all 3 of them then won 2 games in their conference tournament to finish 19 and 15, 4 games over 500. So I think Ohio State needs to win too. I mean, beating Iowa is not really going to move the needle at this point. I know Iowa did pick up a good win today at Nebraska, but I think that they really need to win too, which means beating Illinois and picking up a quad 1A win. I think that's really their only option. I think they need to win both. I mean, just beating Iowa and then losing to Illinois isn't really going to move the needle. And, right now I literally have them as my last team in. They're either going to get passed or we're going to have a bid stealer. So, they need to move up in order to remain in the field.
And let's not. This is my last thing. No way in hell North Carolina gets in unless they beat.
I think they need to beat Duke.
Yeah, you just Clemson's good. I don't know where they're at. I need to look at the AC tournament bracket, but I don't think they'd get a Duke until the final, maybe
No, they would get Duke in
or
the
the semis.
semifinal. So North Carolina's the 5. They get the winner of Pitt and somebody in the first round, and then they get Wake Forest, who's the 4.
That's not enough.
I just don't know that winning 2 quad 2 games. I mean, their metrics would be pretty good, though. I mean, their metrics would be good enough, but
One quad one win.
they're
No.
1-11 versus quad 1. I mean, it would be by far the worst quad 1 record to ever get a bid. So, yeah, I'm with you. Like, they're 1-11 versus quad 1. They're 1-9 versus the at-large field, and then they're 1-6 versus the top 7 in the ACC. I'm like,
I'm sorry, but that basically says you have to have no success against tournament teams. That's all
right.
it tells you.
Their only win versus tournament team all year was beating UCLA on a neutral court, which is a good win. Don't get me wrong, but when you play 10 games against tournament teams, you can't go 1-9. I mean, that's just not an acceptable conversion rate, regardless of how hard your schedule is. Like, you got to win some of these games.
Yep. So then and again, Pitt and Wake right now aren't tournament teams.
No,
So that wouldn't help.
they need to beat a tournament team. They got a little bit unlucky because I had said, probably a week ago or earlier this past week, I'm like, they need to beat one of Duke, Louisville, or Clemson, right? Like, they need to beat one of the ACC tournament teams in order to get a bid. And unfortunately, the way the ACC tournament bracket fell, they're on the other side of the bracket from Louisville and Clemson, who obviously are much more beatable than Duke. But
yeah, Louisville, I think would be
I don't know. I feel like they need to beat Duke.
I think Louisville would have been the susceptible one.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
definitely.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. I think we talked about 20, 30 minutes. I always appreciate the work you do, and I'm glad you were able to join us and, enlighten some Illini fans. So anywhere between an 8 and a 5, that's Illinois' spot.
That's what it's looking like right now. But yeah, you win Thursday night, and I think a 6 seed is definitely most likely.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And there we have it. Again, thanks JBR for joining me earlier today. He's one of my favorites. I know we like Brad Evans too, but Brad Evans, would never jump on when we asked him to. He's a busy man. JBR always obliges. Kev, your thoughts from the interview?
Sorry, it's March, baby. I'm just getting a little fired up listening to CBS Basketball's intro from 2008, I think, or something like that.
Oh yeah,
I think he's spot on. I've been, obviously this is such a fun time of year when you start to look at this stuff, and a week from today we'll have it. We'll be ready. We'll be good to go, and we'll know exactly where Illinois sits. I love being in that 6-7 line for extended tournament success. If we're really talking about making the second weekend, the 4 or 5 is huge, right? And I don't know. Like I question how much effort or work or what they want to do in the Big Ten tournament as well, right? I'm fine going 1-1, right? That's okay. We'll go play this. We'll go 1-1 if JBR's got us on the 6, or we'll go 2-1. It's fine. I think Maryland's going to be a tough matchup. I can talk about that a little bit later if you want. I was going back and looking at some key metrics from that game. But Illinois, I think, has played itself out of the 8-9 game. I don't think that Ohio State or Iowa are going to pose us a lot of problems. I don't want to look too far ahead. I mean, Ohio State can be a very good team, but I think that Illinois, the way that we're playing, we're whole now. They're practicing more. We've got extended practice time compared to just about everybody else.
Fingers crossed with Merez news tomorrow, by the way.
Right, yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of positive momentum for this team. The one concern I have right now is like Merez coming back obviously does change some minute obligations, but this team's playing a very short bench right now. Not a lot of guys in double-digit minutes, and so therefore I kind of don't even care if we play on Sunday, right? I don't want that. I'd love to play on Saturday because that solidifies you at worst as a 6, in my opinion. You get 2 more quad 1 wins. That pushes you into 10 quad 1 wins.
I think I'm gonna be honest, you get 10 quad 1 wins, man. You're in Michigan's faltering. Illinois could easily get a 5 seed, in my opinion. So
Yeah, but I kind of don't want it. I kind of would rather stay at 6.
yeah.
You know,
I think beating Ohio State solidifies Illinois as a 6 because it's the 9th quad 1 win. I think that's going to get them to a 6 seed. I think beating Maryland, maybe gives you the top. Maybe you're the top 6 seed, but works your way into getting into 5 seed territory. I love JBR. I think he was right there with it, basically saying when you get to the semifinals, the NCAA, I don't think the committee really cares anymore much about what you're doing other than the 1 seed stuff, is because with so many good SEC teams, Kev, they're going to be looking at who's beating who, because Florida right now, in my opinion, has got the last 1 seed. So if
and I mean,
Alabama overtake them, so.
Yeah, the Bama had a big win over Auburn over the weekend, but Florida just beat Bama. I think that's the fight there for that 4th one. I've got Houston, Duke, and Auburn locked in as the 3-1 seeds, and not in that order. So the order I have for number 1 overall seed still is Auburn, in my opinion, then Duke, then Houston, and I'm with you, Ryan. I have Florida there now. So.
Except when you're Houston and you get a 5 seed and have to play Illinois. That I'm gonna be honest, Kev. When you really look at it, that may be the most atrocious 5 seed that's ever been given. I remember seeing that bracket when it came out, Kev.
Yeah.
And going, oh, they must have had like an off year this year or something,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, they're just as tough as always, So, yep. But yeah, so fives, the 12 is a popular upset, but man, Kev, there's been tons of 13s lately. There's a lot of 6-11s. I mean,
oh yeah, you got to go handle your business. I think this Illinois team is proven that. I think they can play with anybody. I think they can get beat by anybody. I think that I've talked about this a lot in some of the other, like I talk about it on Illini Guys. I think I posted it on Twitter. I mean, I stole it from Illini board, one of the articles that were written there about a month ago. Illinois is key metrics to winning basketball games. And I know just about everybody's key metrics fall somewhere in here: turnovers, rebounding, and 3-point percentage. So Illinois can do 2 of 3 and beat good teams. They can beat some decent teams. Like they can beat Ohio State. They could even beat Maryland doing 2 of the 3 well. If they do 1 of 3 well, they're not winning. If they do 0 of 3 well, they're going to get dog walked. And then if they do 3 of 3 well, that's second half Oregon. That's second half Michigan. That's first half Indiana. That's the last 10 minutes against Purdue on Friday night, where we made 6 of our last 7 3-pointers.
That's a good chunk of the game against Michigan.
Right, and we flipped the script on Purdue from a rebounding standpoint the last 10 minutes, and we started to turn the ball over a little bit there, but still we kept the numbers under 10. So Illinois hasn't turned the ball over 10 times in a game in our last 4. So that's where Illinois. I think Kasparis is really buttoning up on the turnovers. It seems like Kylan's buttoning it up. Will Riley being a facilitator for this team, and the amount of the passing and the assists that they get, they can score. I do worry about teams with lead guards. We saw what Braden Smith did to us on Friday night, but this team can go and this team can make a run in this Big Ten tournament, solidify itself on the 6 line, possibly get to a 5 like we talk about, and then when it's tournament time, it's anything can happen. So
let's have some fun here and talk about the Purdue game, man. Let's just talk about the emotions of it, and so I already told. I told my buddy Kedrick. You guys might know him, Kedrick Prince. He watches once in a while, so I told him I like to throw his name in here. So that game, man, Kev, where you said you were watching it in a delay,
No, so it was my daughter had a birthday party at the house. So there was just, once everything got settled, and I watched 90% of the games on a 30-minute to an hour. I started 30 minutes to an hour later. It's by design. I throw my phone in the other room so I don't tweet and I don't talk to my friends and I don't have to hear anything about it, and I can miss the commercials. I can skip all that crap.
Because at one point during the night, I waited about 20, 30 minutes after the game, Kevin, to text you.
And that was right when I finished watching the game, actually. So it's pretty awesome.
So, and I was like, oh, big dub tonight, But then he was like, oh, well, what about the tech? And I'm thinking, don't.
Oh, yeah. So what happened there?
He's only at that part of the game where he.
No. So what happened? And I actually chimed in on the Illini guys post game conversation. I was watching the game, and one of the things I hate video reviews, and it's another reason why I watch the game on delays, because I can just skip them, because no matter what I think, it's not going to change a thing. And so unless it's something really got really up to, really dicey or something, I don't watch reviews. So when the technical happened, I was fast forwarding it, and that looked like they were going to the monitor, and I just fast forwarded fast enough that I missed Kasparis' free throw. The score didn't change, and I'm like, wait a second, there was no text. So I just missed it. Being an idiot.
Yes, Kasparis missed the freebie.
Yeah.
So the emotions of this game, like Kev, were you able to watch that 5-minute video that they made about the game?
Dude, it's awesome. It's phenomenal. Really
so
well.
I think we both agreed if we could have picked one game this year to win, I think it was probably this one at home.
At home, yeah.
Yeah. So what home game this year would we have wanted just to make sure to win more than any other? I think it was this game. So
yeah, absolutely. Senior night, even though that doesn't mean a lot for this team, but. And
just the way, the Michigan State game had ended and, Illinois not being able to close out the Tennessee game, there was some nerves there. And the fact that Illinois took the lead late, it felt like they were battling uphill most game, though. That to me, that was what was real satisfying for how the team closed it out, because, no, don't worry about that. So even though Illinois got up early 17-10, you could just tell slowly Purdue was taking control with the two-man game of Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn, and Illinois was having problems staying in front of Braden Smith, but also the drop coverage was allowing easy dump-offs to TKR, and then Tommy tried his best, but it's just I don't know how – what do you say to a guy who's 4 inches smaller and he just knows how to use his body and get in there, and he's still able to score in the paint? It just gets frustrating at times. So that was frustrating, and then just seeing it slow over and over again, but then eventually Will Riley and Trey Smith and these guys who all played so great just battled, and at one point, Kevin, it was 63-53.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, it's now or never, right? 11 minutes left. You got to go. They did, and they did that, Kevin, by getting to the free throw line. Kylan Boswell did a great job of doing that and setting up guys like Trey White to, there was an and one there. And eventually we saw, a guy who's been pretty dependable late in games off the bench, Ben Hummerkaus, have some big three-pointers, Kev. And, there's so many flowers to give, and I'm looking forward to the champagne toast for this game. But he had 2 huge threes, and that really helped Illinois get the lead, 67-66. And then when they needed a bucket down 4, Kev, with 90 seconds left, you got to score. He hit a 3 to cut it to 1. So those were 2 huge threes by Ben Hummerkaus. And then we saw KJ, the closer, do what KJ does and make a big 3. And honestly, he had several rim out on him tonight, Friday night. And I was like, he had one coming for him. And I'm glad he was able to deliver that.
Yeah, I think I counted 5 in and outs possible in the first half and like the first 2 minutes of the second half from 3. It was just like, my goodness. And Purdue was hitting balls on the front of the rim that went in. And I'm like, my goodness, man.
So it was just a complete team effort, man. It was just really and one thing I want to elaborate on before you take off with this, Will Riley, as exceptional as he was shooting the ball, Kev, what he's doing in playmaking and setting up his teammates is just so fun to see. I think he had 4 assists, but the way he's using his penetration, and they know they're going to send 2 guys at him, and he's able to spin off of them and find his teammates cutting and then hit Tomislav in the paint. It's just so fun to see. But also, Illinois tore up Purdue with cuts.
It was incredible.
And Matt Painter addressed that in the post-game presser, saying they just can't defend those for some reason.
Well, and Bill Raftery was just giving Illinois all their flowers when it came to the way that they were cutting, and it was phenomenal. I talked about on this show 2 weeks ago, they weren't allowed to wear the Fighting Illini jerseys anymore, right? I wasn't like, because I didn't see a lot of fight in them. I think they could fully put those shirts back on. But what I'm calling this team is the resilient Illini, right? And the reason for that is, like, we sat on this show 2 weeks ago, and we have friends of this show, guys that we appreciate that always chime in, that thought Illinois wasn't going to win another game.
Jay Bagan.
Yeah, how about that? Right? How about the defensive switches that they made late? Right, it was really impressive.
Yeah.
But we had fans on this show that didn't think that this team would win another game, and frankly, after the way that they played in the second half against Wisconsin, the second half against Michigan State, 2 halves against Duke, I didn't blame people for feeling that way. To be honest with you, I was a little worried about the Iowa game. I did have confidence that we'd win that game, but I was still sitting there going like, oh, man, I don't know. And then for this team to come back, they beat them by 20. They beat Michigan by 20. And the Purdue game, just like you talked about, Ryan, we go up 17-10. Next thing you know, they go on a 19-4 run. We get down 63-53 in the second half. And we go on a 17-3 run, change the game 70-66. Everybody in the building thought we were winning the game at that point. Nope. Next thing you know,
77-72 Purdue.
Right. Purdue goes on an 11-2 run. And it was just like they're dead in the water again. And this team found a way. This game was so critical for the long-term success of what this team can do moving forward, because we all know that NCAA tournaments are going to go that way. Put that fight back on your jersey. They've earned it. They are, and so much of this, and they just didn't know where they were going to get contributions from guys in practice, on the floor. It was just a ton of it going on. And now they're whole. They've got long stretches of practice time that led up to this game. The schedule turned in their favor post-Duke. The schedule's turning in their favor going into Thursday night. I think I like, actually, some of these teams with double buys, you get a team that's shot in that arena in a game the night before. Sometimes you can come out a little bit flat against that team that played the night before, and it can really lead to Illinois playing on Saturday, which would be really cool. So great season from these guys to rebound. They're very dangerous in March, and I'm excited for what's coming. So I do want to say something. SDR, lazy, I don't want to talk about this in this format, but I share some of your similar thoughts. If you guys want to hit me up on Twitter or on YouTube with a message or whatever, I'd be glad to discuss it with you, but I'm in congruence with your thoughts, because I don't understand how it could happen. So I don't want to talk about it on this show.
Yeah. I don't want to get into that either. So Sean Garner, everything I've been hearing, Dame Sarr is going to be in Illini. It was a lot dependent to seal it, just that Will Riley's going pro, and let's just keep it real. He's moving up a spot or two every week. So, it's good and bad, Kev. It's kind of sad too. So let's talk about this a little bit. So it was senior day, right, for Ben Hummerkaus, who, what's funny is he'll probably be back next year. And I've been told he knows that it will be as a bench role, by the way. It'll be kind of doing what he's doing now. Because they've got big plans and big names and big guys coming in. So hey, do you want to come back? Hell yeah, dude, we could use what you can offer, but you just got to know this is what it'll be. So doesn't mean it's locked in that Ben Hummerkaus is coming back, but I've been told that the door will be open as long as he knows what his role is going to be.
And he is showing in his role the past few games. He's 7 for 14 from 3 the last 3 games. Trey White is 9 for 15 his last 4. He is showing that that's a good spot for him, that he's acquiescing to that role. And my goodness, has he played some great defense on the bigs the past couple of games to show. I think that's not a long-term solution. I mean, I don't think that anybody here really wants Ben Hummerkaus taking on a real quality 5 a lot, but it worked the past couple of games. And it just shines a light on missing Merez a little bit. But he held his own and he did a great job. I don't think that I can't stress enough. I don't think it's long-term success. And like Barry said, he can play himself out of that role. He absolutely can. He can also be a guy he could be a guy who could hit 5-second half threes for us in a tournament game. We all know that. Like, he can be a guy that can push us over the top to win a basketball game. And the fact that he's gaining some confidence will be great. Is great.
Yeah, and as a guy, as much as frustrated as I was with Ben earlier in the year, I think it was justified frustration, and it was never personal.
Right.
You know, that's the thing that some people just need to take out of this. Like, I don't take personal shots at Illinois players. So I've had Ben on this show. I've interviewed him. He's a great guy. He's a man of faith. He's a good man. I never would ever talk about the type of man he is. But I would be sure as heck glad to say, if they said, "Hey, Ben Hummerkaus will be back next year, and he knows his role, and this is what it's going to start out." I would be fine, and I'd be perfectly happy knowing he's coming back, because I've seen him really try hard. I've seen him accept a demotion per se, and with grace, and have a good attitude, and I think he really exemplifies how he lives his life, what you saw on how he plays out there, Kev.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't see a guy who's a bad teammate, right? You see a guy that's just trying and knows that he's made mistakes, and he's trying to maximize his abilities and be a great teammate, and he's doing that. So again, I'd have no problem with that. But to answer that really quick, yes. So Dame Sarr, Barcelona, 6'6", wingman, super athletic, really good, really good 3-point shooter. He's going to be probably projected top 20 pick next year over the summer in the top 20 in the 2026 mock drafts. And yeah, Sean, we'll talk more about that later on. I don't want to get on everybody on the team while we're finishing up this Purdue stuff, but the answer to Dame Sarr is yes. And Will Riley is playing himself into getting closer to the lottery pick, man. Just 6'8" Kevin, who is just a tough shot maker, who's handling, contact better, who's a playmaker, who's finding people and making winning plays. You know what I'm saying, Kev? It's just that's a win. That's a guy who's just potential and talent is just doing this right now.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people would love to get Will Riley back. I know a lot of people would love to get Kasparis back. Like, listen, Brad putting one and dones in the NBA is a big deal, right? It's actually been a thing that some of the top guys, when they're looking at Illinois, they're like, "But you don't do one and dones. Like, you don't have any success. You don't have any track record doing that." And I know it's kind of BS, guys, because we're looking at it and we know that there's been top 10 kids like you're not a one and done school, and then they do a hat switch and go to a one and done school and they're one and done and they don't have NBA careers at all, and they weren't that good in college either. Like, but that's what the kids want. They want to know that you can put guys in directly, league them. You want league me? That's what they want. That's what they say. And so this will be interesting. So getting those guys to go directly to the league will be good for us in future recruiting.
How do you think sleazeball like Bruce Pearl keeps getting all these really good players in classes? Mm-hmm. It's not because he's still cheating right now, because there is no cheating with NIL anymore, but it's because he's putting guys in that NBA draft, and he's putting his face, Kev, in those green rooms with his guys getting drafted. And guess where Brad Underwood's going to be in June, sitting with Will Riley and Kasparis Jakusionis, two guys who probably are going to get green room invites, by the way.
Right.
And you don't think that looks good for the University of Illinois people?
Absolutely. When Brad's there with them. Yeah.
When Brad's sitting there with them. Yeah. And you hear this across your screen and you see Will Riley pick 17th, University of Illinois.
By the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, Kev, I bet you want Will Riley, don't you?
Oh, I think he'd be a great fit. I think he's exactly what they like and what they want to do. Now he's got to get better defensively, but
Jakusionis, yeah. So, and then with the 6th pick, 5th pick, whatever.
KJ.
Whatever.
It's J.
KJ, yeah. Yakachon. They call it Yakachonis. So, yes, seeing that twice within an hour and a half period with Brad Underwood hugging these guys, you think recruits are going to be like, I think I can handle that? Yes, it helps the program. Yakachonis, Sleevey Nash. By the way, Sleeve Nash is one of the people on the Discord who's feels like he's a leader there now. They call it the pirate ship. So if you want to join the Discord for the show, the podcast, whatever, have a good time with Illini fans, let me know. I'll send you guys the link. So yes, again, we'll answer a bunch of these questions about Tommy. I think Trey White will be back now, Kev, by the way. I think he's having a good time. I think he's having fun. I think he's got his groove back. You know how Stella got her groove back. I think how Trey White got his groove back. I think you see him being a leader out there with Kylan Boswell. So I love the ascension and having Trey White back, Kev, who we saw pre-Indiana was just a guy that go get you 20 and 9, you know?
Yeah, he's averaging 17 and 6 in his last 4 games and shooting 60% from 3. I think he's taking in rhythm threes. I think he's gaining some confidence. I don't expect him to be a 60% 3-point shooter, but one of the biggest things with Trey is if Trey can still stretch, if you've got to pay attention to him now. Like you can look at it, he's 9 of his last 16. You've got it. If you're opposing coach, you're like, you can't really leave 22 that wide open in a corner. Corners seem to be been a spot other than that one at the wing was a beautiful 3, man, just ripped the nets. That's one of the biggest concerns with getting Morez back is saying, hey, how do we get Trey and Morez on the floor? We got 2 non-shooters in the way that we like to space the floor. Well, now you don't have that. You've still got to guard Trey out there. It makes them – Morez is probably one of the easiest guys to reinsert back into this lineup, in my opinion, because he doesn't demand the ball and he doesn't demand post touches. He's going to go get his own through rebounds and hustle. And so I really hope we could possibly see him on Thursday. So we look forward to tomorrow. So.
Yes, so that news will be coming in tomorrow. Well, to put a bow on this Boilers, it's straining the 5-game streak. I think it was great to just see everybody really kind of chip in and have everybody who we need to kind of get their groove going. I know we'd like to see a little more from Drake Gibbs Lawhorn. I think he gave a few good minutes defensively, personally. Where he was hounding Braden Smith. I think he got a turnover on one of them. I think he traveled on one of those.
Yeah.
And then there was a screen. He fought through a screen, and then they called a moving screen on one of them. So he was in there battling. I think there's a lot of emotion for him in there. Jake Davis really didn't have one of his best games, but he also didn't play that much either. So, but it was good. Even Tomislav had a couple sloppy passes, but, man, he was so good, hitting cutters and over-the-top dimes to Will Riley. And it was good to see him knock a couple threes down as well because Illinois is going to need Tomislav to stretch the floor and keep doing that.
Absolutely.
So we'll do you want to do our champagne toast, Kev?
Yeah, for sure we can do that.
Yeah, so if you want to we can do one or we can do 2 apiece, whatever you want to do.
Let's just do one.
Let's just do one.
I got a cool final thought to share with the listeners here, and hopefully they'll jump in on it.
All right, you can go for it. You can pick your who's your toast of the town for Friday's win.
Will Riley. Will Riley. 7 straight points to end the first half. Just was huge in what he did for this team. Kept us around, made tough bucket after tough bucket. The turnaround jumper, the great passing, the facilitating, deserves all his flowers. The what it does to his draft stock, it's just huge. I thought Will Riley was fantastic. Hey man, we closed the last minute and a half in both halves. A 17-1 advantage, 10-1 in the second half, 7-0 in the first half. And Will Riley was very critical in that 7-0 run to finish the first half. We were down 42-34, and he had our last 7 points. He had a free throw before that, but it was just huge, man. That 3-pointer was really big for us to give us some momentum in the second half. So really like what he did, and so that's my champagne toast, Mr. Will Riley.
Mr. Will Riley, and man, looking through the stat sheet here, I would have given it to KJ for his deep. You would say that 3 obviously was crucial, man. 79 all, hit the dagger, right? that should be worth it in itself. But with Trey White's 20-9 and just how and crucial he was, and then you could give it to Boswell, 15 points, Kev, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. I'm gonna go Trey White though. I think what he was doing in that first half kept Illinois in contact enough to where Will Riley could go off. And if you think about it, it was Trey White with those rebounds in the paint, those putbacks, right? And Purdue was going on those runs. He hit that beautiful mid-range jumper. It was 25-19. And he hit that beautiful little mid-ranger to cut it to 4. Then he was cutting to the basket, getting those little layups. And how about this, Kev? He had 4 3-pointers.
Yeah.
People aren't talking about Trey's threes. Like he hit the 3 to give Illinois a tie at 63. The first time it'd been tied in like 15 minutes of game action.
Yeah, it was 3 of 5 from 3. I missed one other
3. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It was just.
And then he also hit the 3 to go up 4, 70-66.
Yeah, just timely, man.
Yeah, so Trey White. I can tell you this: if Illinois is playing like this, Kev, and KJ's giving you double-digit points and 7 assists and not turning the ball over, and Tomoslav's giving you 12 and 8, and Will Riley's going off for 20, and Ben Hummerkaus is hitting threes when you need them, and Kylan's giving you the multiple mid-teen points, and then you're adding a Merez back to help your rebound to be that top 1 or 2 rebounding team in the country, Puritz, Saracen, Margins, whatever it is. That's scary, man.
Yeah. I love what some of the other folks have said. Brad Underwood, the defensive switches, changes late in the game. Even our guy Gio gave him some love in our Twitter chat. Orange Crush. Dude, I've heard from so many people that's the loudest environment they've been to in a long time.
And let me tell you what, Myers Leonard was into the game, by the way.
I don't know if feel bad for the people who had to hear his song.
Oh, stop it.
It's bad, dude. I'm sorry, man. You can only be talented at so many things, dude.
Yeah.
But he's a really good basketball player. He got paid a lot of money to play basketball. He's got a beautiful wife and a really wealthy family.
He's got another kid on the way. And you know what, though? Brett Eldridge, though, I think Brett Eldridge is going to help him get signed to be on a label or something, dude. I'm just telling you.
I gave Brett Eldridge an ILL at a small ballroom in Tulsa, Oklahoma when he was opening for Eli Young Band, and I didn't get an I&I back. So he's kind of dead to me. I'm kidding.
Okay, he probably thought you were just saying he's ill.
No, he's probably from Paris, Illinois, and doesn't really give a crap about
it. He is from Paris, Illinois. Yeah, but apparently he's an Illini fan, so we'll see.
Maybe.
But so the biggest switch too that you're talking about, since Brad doesn't adjust to, he doesn't make adjustments, right?
Yeah.
The little dive in on Trey Kaufman-Renn to try to pick at it to double a little bit. And Will Riley used his long arms to get the biggest steal of the season. So, I think you're going to see a lot of that in the Big Ten tournament, especially if Illinois plays Maryland. I think you're going to see a lot of different defenses.
And I think it's a Friday evening game. So, the other thing that we're talking about here, while we're on the subject of the crowd, is we could get a lot of fans over there. Hey, by the way, anybody who's planning on going to the Big Ten tournament, all right, I just got done going to the Citrus Bowl. I didn't pay ticket face value. Okay, I had great seats, 50-yard line. I have been to several Big Ten tournaments. I've been to dude. It's not going to sell out, guys. It is not going to sell out. Unless you want really good seats in an Illinois section, you do not need to pay face value. You can scalp. You can buy tickets from people after their team loses if you're a part of the second game of the session. So how that works out, I'm not really sure right now with Illinois. But just be aware that you can wait as close to tip as possible. If you're willing to wait 3 to 5 minutes after, maybe 2 minutes after tip, which I hate personally, dude, you can get tickets at 50% of what you would have paid for them before. So just a note to Illinois fans to get out there if you want to save some money on that. So, and
I'm going to give you the floor first for final thoughts, Kev. Go for it.
Yeah, so something that actually I meant to do while I was watching JBR, but I was so engrossed in my guy. talking is I didn't get it set up, so I actually just did it while we're talking. Hey, I'm doing next week. Matt's going to come on, and we're going to talk about Illinois' draw, where they're going, maybe a little bit about the Big Ten tournament, but mostly we're going to talk about going forward, what the NCAA tournament looks like. And in that, I've set up 2 brackets for our listeners. The first one is a fun, family-friendly. Let's just put a couple entries in there if you want. It is called Keeping It Orange ampersand blue. So it's got to be the and symbol, keeping it orange ampersand blue.
That's password. What that is. It's an ampersand. Okay.
Yeah. It's weird as the word and is actually in the name. Ampersand and blue, and the password is Illini. So that'll be a completely just fun one. And if you want to get into one a little bit more serious with some rewards, there is a one called Beat the Boys with S being a $sign, Beat the Boys $. If you would like to get into that one, hit me up with on a DM on Twitter or something like that. Just find a way to reach out to me. I can give you like kmducey@gmail.com, because there'll be some rules and other things that you need to specify about how we're going to get that all done. Okay, so just heads up there.
Sounds fun. 2 different brackets for the Keeping It Orange.
Yeah, and that's the Beat the Boys one. You got to DM me for the password. Keeping It Orange and Blue. Password is Illini, capital I, Illini, right?
Okay, so for the other, there's like some special rules and things. You got to go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that'll be fun. So
apparently, Beat the Boys $sign might give you some clue. $! Exclamation point might tell you what's different. So
that's right. We do a show called Fade the Deuce, people. Let's keep it real.
Yeah, and we're gonna get Maddie McCumber on next week. It'll be a lot of fun. So
yeah. So Jay Began thinks he's winning both. So we'll see. So for my final thought, basically, just gonna give another little shout out. Sadly, a good shout out, but also a little bittersweet. So the Illini women will be playing in March in the NCAA tournament. They have lost 4 in a row. They've been quad 1 win games. They've stumbled and faltered a little bit, but still, the future is so bright for Shauna Green and that team, and playing 6 really healthy scholarship players. They have 7 girls they play, but really 6 of them are healthy. I'm just happy for the university, for the program, for those seniors that, they get to experience their second NCAA tournament. It's not good that, they lost at home on senior night, but, a close one in Nebraska in the Big Ten tournament. But there's no way that Shauna Green has the program anywhere other than ascending to be a top 15, 20 team every season. So they were ranked in the top 20 this year. I think it's just going to get better. And it's awesome to have 2 basketball programs, that are just fun to talk about, Kev. A football program that's thriving. Like this is a fun time to be part of Illini sports. And that's why it's fun to be doing this podcast, because there's so much to talk about. The football season, this is the most, I would say this coming football season, maybe the most anticipated in a couple decades, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the women's basketball program's good. The men's basketball programs is in a golden period. In my opinion, it's going to keep going in a golden period, not the golden period of the best ever, but I think things are just going to get better and better. More and more top quality NBA recruits are coming to Illinois basketball. Illinois baseball won the Big Ten last year. I know they're probably regrouping a little this year, but still, there's a lot of great things going on in Illinois athletics. So I'm glad to be part of the show. I'm glad, Kev, you're happy to be part of it with me. And we appreciate all you people that pay attention and listen every week. So keep subscribing on YouTube, and all the listeners on Spotify and Apple. We appreciate you too. Anything else, Kev?
Nope. Just like I said, hit me up for the Beat the Boys. If not, keeping it orange ampersand blue. Illini, get it in there. I'll bring it back up tomorrow next Sunday.
We'll post it on X.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just wanted to tell everybody that's where it's at. So.
Yeah. All right. So with that said, Illinois Thursday night, 5:30 Big Ten Network. Remember, 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern. We'll talk to you next